Hello family and saints of the Most High. I have been promising for some time to put out a video series, and this is my introduction to it. For those of you, most of you already know this, but for those of you who do not, I have been a believer in Jesus Christ since I was a young man. My aunt would say since I was a baby boy, but that's her testimony. Maybe you'll have the opportunity to hear it. And I believed the words and the Bible teachings of my mother and grandmother as I was growing up. And that's what we should do. We should believe those who are in authority over us. But I've come to understand over the years that the evidence and the claims of Christianity are so solid that they are able to withstand what is referred to in legal circles as the burden of proof. And it is my intention over the next few videos to put out evidence in support of the claim that I'm about to make even right now. The claim is this: that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And you need to put yourself in position so that you can avoid the mixed kingdom. I hope you enjoy the series. Alright, good afternoon family. This is the beginning of my video / presentation entitled Avoiding the Mixed Kingdom. A little background on myself. Right after I graduated high school, I joined the Navy. Did about 11 years active in reserve and that, and then I finally got smart and I joined the Marine Corps. Retired and served 17 years in the Marine Corps, and I retired back in 2015. And at the time that I retired and at the place I retired, I was in Quantico, Virginia, and I was excited about my opportunities there. I saw myself picking up one of those big government jobs that military retirees tend to get once they get out of the military. After all, I was in Quantico, Virginia, right next to D.C., and everybody was telling me, hey, it's going to be a cinch. You're going to be in there. And as a result, I got some coaching on putting together and applying for one of those jobs. I was really excited because a month before I actually retired, for a job that I applied for, I received notice in my little inbox that said, hey, your package has been received, you qualify for the position, and your package is being reported up to Human Resources. So I was excited about that. I figured, it was a month before I retire, I should be able to roll right into this thing. Well, suffice it to say, I didn't hear from them all the way up until November, and that didn't occur. It only occurred because I contacted them. And so that one didn't work out. But in the meantime, I ended up picking up a job working at the VA Conference Center. Yes, the same VA that you hear on the news and all of that. I worked at the place where the different leaders from the VA would come to have training sessions or the like. And my responsibility was setting up the conference room and the center for the different people who would come to give their presentations. A big portion of that for me was the fact that I was able to listen to the book of Daniel while I was working. And I didn't understand it at the time, but it seemed like I could not get enough of it. And it'd take me an hour to go through it. And in order to set up the conference from one group to the other, it would normally take me about 3 hours to do that. So I just listened to the book of Daniel as done by, inspired by, and I would listen to it 3 times. Take me 3 hours to set up, so I listened to it 3 times, and I continued to listen to the book of Daniel as opposed to maybe going on to another book and listening to it. If you've never heard the Bible Experience as done by Inspired by, I highly recommend it. It is well done. It has actors such as Samuel L. Jackson, Denzel Washington, Loretta Devine, and others playing roles and dramatizing the scriptures, if you will. Well, like I said, that was the big thing for me, and something I did not understand why it was working out that way, but to God be the glory. And before I continue, I'm going to ask you all right now, what is the best form of government, or to at least put that in your mind? I know what most, I think I know what most Americans would say, but just have that in the back of your mind. I'm going to cover that in just a little bit. And now I'm going to move on to what I think is really important. I'm going to give you a brief history on Israel, very brief, and I'll just go on. The world was a group of separated families governing by their own mandates. Some cultures had influences and kingdoms which were comparatively more powerful than their neighbors and were even designated as world powers. The Ming Dynasty of China and the pharaohs of Egypt are examples of this. God intended to rule Israel as its king, but the Jews preferred to be like the other nations. However, kings outside the Jewish nation were doing things that God hated, like sacrificing children to idols. And the question that comes to my mind is, where did the human family get ideas to do stuff like that? It suffices to say that there was an influence in our early history that caused men all over the world to do the types of things which were contrary to the will of God. To include practices like, sacrificing children to animals, bestiality, and other things like that. God the Father first sought to be the king over Israel, caring for, fighting for, and administering the issues of their lives. But that was not what they wanted. Israel preferred instead to have kings like everybody else. And since God is not a brute and will not override the will of any he loves all, he acquiesced to their desire. Notice, in their choice of their first king was King Saul, who was, and the Bible describes him, and I'm paraphrasing, as the biggest and prettiest thing they could find. Now, why would they go in that direction? Well, God permitted it and instituted protocols to ensure Israel's success. It resulted in their becoming the most influential kingdom in the world under the leadership of King David and the wisdom of his son, King Solomon. Eventually, however, they would abandon the principles God had instituted for their national success and identity. It resulted in God making them subject to the Gentiles until he should redeem Israel to himself. The means of their being made subject was King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. One of the things you need to know about Israel and their subjugation to King Nebuchadnezzar, one of the primary themes was the dream that he had and that was interpreted by Daniel. Of course, this is one of the things I was listening to while working at the conference center and I could not get enough of. This is Daniel chapter 2 as done by, inspired by. Please enjoy it as I did.
In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them,
I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means.
Then the astrologers answered the king,
May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it.
The king replied to the astrologers,
This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me.
Once more they replied.
Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it.
Then the king answered.
I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation would change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me.
The astrologers answered the king.
There is not a person on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among human beings.
This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer,
"Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?"
Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went in to the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said,
"Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king."
Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him,
"Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him."
Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said,
I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means.
The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar,
Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it?
Daniel replied,
"No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that pass through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of Kings, the God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all people everywhere, and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united, any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy.
Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor, and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel,
Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery.
Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court.
Now, there's going to come a time pretty soon, as we're going through this, you'll probably ask yourself, well, how is it that, you know these things? Well, let me deal with that right now, deal with it ahead of time. This is a scripture that's at the end of the book of Daniel. I'll just read it. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And the angel said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. What's happening here is Daniel is questioning concerning end-time events that he had dreamed about, and now that the angel was also explaining to him. But the angel didn't explain everything to him. So he's asking a question. I, like you, and unlike Daniel, live in the time where these things are being revealed. Specifically, verse 9 tells us that the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Now, here are the portions or the parts of the vision that Nebuchadnezzar saw. Nebuchadnezzar, of course, was identified as the head of gold. Now, the identification of Nebuchadnezzar as the head of gold kind of sets him apart and makes him different in that the other parts of the statue represented whole kingdoms, not individual kings. We progress on. Next was the silver arms and torso. This represented the Medo-Persian Empire. At the end of the scripture, in chapter 2, it said that Daniel remained there until King Cyrus. King Cyrus came after, well, he was the first Persian king. So basically, Daniel is living out throughout part of the fulfilling of this prophecy. Next were the bronze waist and thighs. This, of course, represents the Grecian and Mesopotamian empire that was introduced by Alexander the Great. The point here is that all of these kingdoms are coming to pass just as they had been dreamed about by Nebuchadnezzar. Following that, of course, was the legs of iron. History buffs know that after the Grecian Empire, the Roman Empire came into being. And it existed from 1st century BC until sometime around 1450 AD. Lastly, Daniel talked about the mixed kingdom. Tune in tomorrow and we'll discuss the mixed kingdom and hopefully get into Daniel's 70 weeks. God bless you, family. Look forward to this journey with you.